This story right here will tell you the reason why I left Jamaica at 8 years old. Against my will, of course, because my parents had migrated to the US and decided that they wanted me to grow up in the US. But I made sure that every year I am back in Jamaica at least once per year. Sometimes multiple times for the year. My purpose is to make sure that I never forget where I come from, because I always have this sixth sense that foreign can do whatever foreign wants to do with you, my friend. And never say never, because although I'm living in foreign, I'm not the type to get into any trouble and all that. Man past those stages in life already. But things can reach you, and next thing you know, you end up back in Jamaica again. And I don't ever want to be one of the people who's coming back to Jamaica 39, 40, 45 years old, and I'm like, yeah, I left here when I was 8 and I don't remember anybody here and I don't have anywhere to go. Me a Jamaican right true and true, my friend. And my heartbeat is Jamaican. The way I'm talk, the way I'm walk, everything. So if foreign ever decide to kick out a person like me, just know, say, I'll be very comfortable on the other side. Now, this story that you're about to hear today is an account given of a psychiatric patient that got deported woman in Jamaica who rescued him. She not only rescued him, she has rescued many other men as well. We're going to learn who that woman is. We're going to learn what her program is called in Jamaica. But we're also going to hear about this brother's story. England wicked enough. And I don't know if England is going, man, listen, I know they can kick out who they want to kick out of their country and all that, but they're the same people that jump around and speak about humanity and humanitarian this and humanitarian that, and then a person like this, you put this person on a plane and send them to Jamaica? Man, we got to talk about this. So, shout out to this news entity for this piece right here, so okay. Alright, my SouFLoTV audience, let's take a break from our scheduled program and let's get right into this. I've been wondering for the longest, why has Jamaica not gone totally solar yet? After all, Jamaica has powerful sunshine all year round, and people are in darkness in certain areas, especially in rural areas. And they've been that way for decades, waiting on government to install street lights. Well, Soninka solar lights. These are commercial grade lights, perfect for rural areas, perfect for dark corners and lanes, perfect for the backyard, the front yard, down the road, driveway lighting, stores, perfect for the farm. Waterproof and remote control. Make your surroundings safer. Jamaica has sun all year round, and you will have no problem keeping these lights charged. Did I mention that they are commercial grade and they are remote controlled? You don't have to wait on government to install lights. Some people in some areas have been waiting for decades, literally decades, and they are still in the darkness. These are easy to install. Get in touch with Soninka and they will do the rest for you. And the best part is this: you don't have to pay a monthly light bill. No, this not gonna bother you like a JPS bill, because it's charged by the sun. So take yourself out of the darkness now. Increase your safety now. Get in touch with Soninka Solar and thank me later. Come on, man. Watch there. All the contact information is right there for you. IG, email, phone number, which you can call by WhatsApp, which is free globally. Go on. Get yourself out of the darkness and into the light. Back to our regular scheduled program at hand. Okay, The Guardian. Let's get into the story. The brother says, I don't know why I was sent here. The Jamaica hostel supporting vulnerable US and UK deportees. For those like Andrew O'Connor, who despite significant mental health needs, has been repatriated to a country he left behind as a child. The open arms is a lifeline for him. Let's get into the story. So, when Andrew O'Connor, a 39-year-old from Nottingham, woke up to loud knocking sounds on his door on May early in the morning last year, he thought it was the window fitter that was coming to fix the window that he was expecting. So he jumped up and he opened the door. But he opened the door to police officers, the bobbies, who came to escort him to a center to await deportation to Jamaica. Poor man never saw this coming. His story gets very deep. The country he had left at the age of 10 years old. Remember, I know, they're knocking on his door at 39 years old. The man left Jamaica with his parents at 10 years old. Never been back to Jamaica. And throughout his growing up had developed mental issues. So there's a whole lot of stuff that's compounded in the story. See? So he opened the door and he saw the police officers there, and they told him that they were there to escort him to a center to await deportation to Jamaica, the country he had left at the age of 10. O'Connor had no idea why. He didn't even know why they might want to deport him. No one had told him anything, it seems, that a deportation order was made against him as way back and as early as 2017. From way back when, and he had no clue that they're conspiring to deport him out of the UK from 2017. See, and this is last year. We're in 2023 right now, so this is last year. They came knocking on his door to take him to a center. So when the Home Office made the decision to deport O'Connor, he was being treated. Actually was not home. The man was in a psychiatric hospital. He is a documented person who has mental issues. And this ain't his first time in a psych ward being treated. And this is the person who they made up a file on and sent him back to Jamaica. Now you have to be wondering what is going on with him and how is he surviving. We're going to get into all that. So when they sent out his deportation orders, he was actually in a psychiatric hospital being treated. The letter that was notifying him of the decision was delivered to the ward where he was at, and it was left unopened on his bedside table. This is what Simon Robinson, a lawyer who is representing him, said. They still have the letter. The letter was unopened and it was sitting at his bedside table in the psychiatric hospital. Now, first of all, right, you're planning on deporting somebody and you send them a letter while they're in a psych ward going through psychosis and getting medicated. How capable is this person of understanding and mentally navigating their situation then? How capable? Within a week. Listen how fast it happened to him. They said within a week O'Connor was getting off of a plane in Jamaica. They just came and knocked on the man's door and his windows. He opened it thinking it was the window fitter, and within a week he was served, and within a week he was in Jamaica stepping off of a plane. Damn. Confused with nowhere to go, he found accommodation in Open Arms. That's the name of the place. Open Arms. Let me stop right here and say this. I know I tell my audience all the time, right, that to be giving people, we can help people. You know, a dollar goes a long way, but you want to make sure that you give it to causes that are worthy. And I think that this cause right here is very worthy. Open Arms. We'll get to that more later on. So the Open Arms saved him. It's a shelter that is located in Kingston, Jamaica, and it offers long-term support for individuals who have been deported from the US, the UK, and other places. Of the 85 men who are now living there, about 2/5 of them have been returned to Jamaica forcibly. Most of them were forced out from the UK, the US, and Canada says Yvonne Grant. Big up to Yvonne Grant. Yvonne Grant is the founder of the shelter called Open Arms located in Kingston. It's the only one of its kind on the island of Jamaica. Between 2020 and 2022, here's some stats. The UK and the US deported at least 744 people to Jamaica in a little 2-year span. So O'Connor, who has paranoid schizophrenia, he moved to the UK with his parents as a child, and he had permanent residency in the UK. This guy is a documented paranoid schizophrenic who has mental breaks every now and then and has to be placed in a psychiatric ward and taken care of there with medication before he can be returned to society. So again, ask yourself, he left Jamaica at 10. At 39 years old, you're sending him back to Jamaica, to a country he probably doesn't even remember. And on top of that, you're sending him back with fully blown, diagnosed psychiatric disorder. His medical condition, he recalls, first emerged when he was a teenager. In his teenage years, the psychiatric issues started to manifest itself. And since then, he has often been admitted to psychiatric hospitals. O'Connor has also served 2 short prison terms. Very short, and it wasn't for anything serious. I know there are the holier than thou art people right now who are jumping up on their soapbox. Yes, you for behave yourself when you go a foreign boy. Them for kick you out of them place where you are doing a prison. Some people don't even take into consideration his mental health situation. Do you know what it feels like to be a teenager who is experiencing paranoid schizophrenia? Do you see how that could possibly get someone into trouble? Okay, so he has served 2 short prison sentences. Both of his prison sentences were less than 3 months, and they were both for non-violent and petty crimes. Unlike many of those that are deported from the UK, O'Connor did not meet the threshold for automatic deportation. He wasn't a violent criminal. He did not serve a lengthy time in prison. The law says generally, people who are automatically considered for deportation, their sentence would have to be over a year. He served 2 3-month sentences. So 2 3-month sentences altogether, that's 6 months. It's not even the year that is required by law to qualify him for a deportation. But guess what the Home Office in the UK said? Frig him. Get him up out of here anyways. The Home... boy, I'm telling you. So the Home Office did not have a pursue. The Home Office did not have to pursue a deportation on him. They chose to do it because on the assessment of the Secretary of State, Andrew's presence in the UK was not conducive to public good. That is what they wrote. His presence in the UK is not conducive to public good. Remember, I know. This man left Jamaica at 10. This man started experiencing mental issues in his teens. This man at 39 years old is full-blown, fully diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. Do y'all know what a paranoid schizophrenic person is? A paranoid schizophrenic person, for those of you who don't know, is someone who often hears voices and sometimes see things. Voices that are not really there, but are as real as you hear me talking to you right now, loud and clear inside their head. Sometimes it's constant voices. Sometimes the voices are telling them to hurt other people. Sometimes the voices are telling them to hurt themselves. Sometimes the voices are telling them to go places, do things, get up and walk. That's why you see some of them walking the streets, talking to themselves, and they've been walking the streets for days, right? And it gets dangerous for them because if a paranoid schizophrenic person, say for instance, gets outside where the weather is pretty cold and it's below 0 freezing, or it's pretty hot outside and it's like 110 degrees in Florida, and this person's head starts getting to the point where they're having a psychotic break. This person no longer has the capability to say, okay, I'm going to go outside, so I have to dress for the weather. So I'll put on a mesh marina, tank top, t-shirt, shorts, dress lightly with sneakers and socks. And I'll bring a bottle of water so I stay hydrated. No, this person will dress like it's the winter time and step outside into 110 degrees heat. And then their mind starts telling them walk 100 miles. And they have no water, they're overdressed. So you could see quickly how they could get hurt, right? Just to give a simple explanation for people who truly do not understand what paranoid schizophrenia is. It also comes with other thoughts, of course, like I said before, hurt yourself or hurt other people. So you could imagine how exhausting it is for somebody to have to battle their thoughts all the time when they are loud and clear in their head. O'Connor had no established relationships in Jamaica. No family members he could turn to. Nobody who knew him and said, yeah man, we know him from a long time. You know, we would pick him up and help take care of him and thing. He had no links, no connections. So here's a fully paranoid schizophrenic man who is about to get off the plane in Jamaica with absolutely no connection. All his family and even his partner, they live in the UK. But the Home Office judged deportation would not violate human rights to family life. That's what they said. It's not a violation of his human rights to family life. Put him on a plane, send him to Jamaica, he'll be all right. Or they'll work it out from there. It was a decision that fits an established pattern of British immigration policy, says Luke de Noronha, a researcher at the University College London and the author of a book that is called Deporting Black Britons. Since the mid-2000s, the aim of UK legislative changes regarding deportation has been to shift the scales in favor of public interest and against the right of individuals to family and private life. Grant was part of the Windrush generation. Grant is the woman who runs this open arms shelter in Kingston, Jamaica. If y'all can find out how to get in touch with Open Arms, I will post the link in the comment section of this video and pin it as the first comment. And if you feel the need to reach out to her, to help her to source some resources, to donate something, or any kind of help that you can give, right? So here's a little bit about her. Her name is Grant. And Grant, she is part of the Windrush generation. She was invited to the UK from the Caribbean back in 1948 to 1973 to help with the post-war labor shortages. There was a time gone by in the UK after war. The UK was pretty beaten down and they needed people to work in all facets of life. And they took people from the Caribbean, to include Jamaica and other Caribbean islands. And these Caribbean people went there and they built Britain back up to what it is today. So she left Jamaica before the country gained independence in 1964. And she settled in London, where she trained as a psychiatric nurse and she started a family. Back then, no one really thought about visas and documents, she said. You just hopped on a plane and that was it. You were in the UK. Hopped on a plane, that was it. You were back in Jamaica. Grant returned to Jamaica when she retired though. But these days, she's back at work. Officials processing deportees are aware of the services that are offered by Open Arms. And she often finds herself driving to Kingston Airport, which is the Norman Manley International Airport, to pick up arrivals, men with no family or friends in Jamaica who need somewhere to go. The shelter she runs is the only organization of its kind on the island, which alongside accommodation aims to offer comprehensive support to people like O'Connor return unwillingly after a lifetime in another country. Her name is Yvonne Grant. And Yvonne Grant is what we call an angel in real life, because it was her who rescued O'Connor, this psychiatric patient. Also, it is said in this report that the people who process the deportees when they come in, they are aware of her, they are aware of her place, and they are aware of her services. So they'll call her and say, hey, we have a youth here, who just come in and he don't have anywhere to go. And him look like him there, talk to himself too, and all kind of things like him not too righted in him head and them something there, and she will say, okay, I'm on my way to come get him then. And she will drive to Kingston to the airport and pick him up. Can you imagine how frightening it must be for a person with all their faculties, a person who is fully smart, intelligent, has no mental issues, no sickness of any kind, to just be thrown in within a week's time from the place as your livelihood, your childhood home and everything, your growing up space, and suddenly you're in Jamaica and you're stepping off the airplane and you don't know who to call or where to go, where your next meal is coming from. That's terrifying for a person who is healthy. So you can imagine how much more terrifying it is for a person who suffers from paranoid schizophrenia, right? But yet the British says that they are humanitarians and they're good people. We try to do as much as possible for people in that situation. Miss Yvonne Grant said. She said, we work hard to get them used to Jamaica. We help them out. We help them sort out their documents. We get their birth certificates. We get their tax registration numbers. Open Arms also provides the residents with access to vocational training courses and opportunity to work at the shelter's bee farm. So they have a bee farm. Open Arms has an established relationship with the UK government. It is thanks to British grants that the shelter was able to offer its residents individual sleeping cubicles. And in 2020, Grant was awarded an MBE for her work. But the British aid and recognition given to the shelter is a double-edged sword. Migration researcher says Open Arms, as a UK-funded homeless shelter, is regularly referenced by British governmental institutions to justify their cases of deportation. So in other words, when they're going to send somebody like O'Connor, who again, may I remind you, is full-blown schizophrenic, when they're going to put somebody like him on a plane who has been in the UK from 10 years old. I've seen younger, I've seen people who were 3 and 4 when they went to the UK be deported while they're in their late 30s, early 40s, and even their 50s. And the way they justify it in the UK is by saying, we're helping on both ends. One end, it's not suitable for us to have this individual here, but we're not just throwing them out. We're actually sending them to a place called Open Arms, which we fund back on the island of Jamaica to help them get reacclimated to Jamaica. And they have all the help there that they need. And it's ran by a psychiatric nurse. Wow. So yeah, that grant that helps to run that place is looked at as a double-edged sword. But the British aid and recognition given to the shelter is a double-edged sword. Open Arms, as a UK funded homeless shelter, is regularly referenced by British governmental institutions to justify their cases of deportation. I just hope I can get back on my feet soon, says John, another one who's 38 years old, who has been living at Open Arms for more than a year now. He was deported to Jamaica from the US after immigrating at the age of 14. And he has a soft-spoken, soft American accent. I know patois, he says, but it doesn't sound right when I speak it. That's because you've been away for too long, my friend. Now, while grateful for the shelter, Open Arms is not really his style, John says. He does not appreciate the 5 a.m. wake-up time and the regimented structure. Recently, he started working at a restaurant and he hopes that he will be able to move into his own place pretty soon. I love Jamaica. It's not that I never wanted to come back, but on my own terms, not like this. The average resident, Grant says, remains at the shelter for 2 years. 2 years before moving on to independent living. But for those who have been returned to Jamaica after leaving as children, it's much harder for them to assimilate back into the culture. So it normally takes them longer than 2 years to get out of the shelter. And you know, deportees in Jamaica, they face a stigma. And the British or Jamaican accent can also be an obstacle to employment, says Denorona. They can find themselves associated with criminality, or they can also be seen as failures who wasted a golden opportunity. Because somebody, as soon as they open their mouth, somebody is going to say, yo, is a British accent the youth have, you know? Or is a American accent him have, you know? I bet says a deportee. Is a deportee, you know, I look work, right? And then comes the stigma. Now, since arriving in Jamaica, O'Connor, back to him now, he's the one who is the paranoid schizophrenic. Since arriving in Jamaica, he is struggling to fit in. He has not been able to access his medications as the Jamaican Health Services does not fund it. Although he is seen by a mental health team who regularly visits Open Arms, Robinson says that his mental state has deteriorated significantly since he has been deported. And I mean, anybody with 2 cents can guess why, right? Extra stress added, no support base, all that. Plus the fact that he probably was not supposed to be deported in the first place. You get deported for felonies, you don't get deported for petty crimes, right? And you're not supposed to be automatically on the list of deportation unless you have done over a year or up to a year plus in prison. And he did 2 separate 3-month stints, which barely adds up to 6 months. So O'Connor says he feels confused. And he says when they asked him, well, what are you doing here? You know, he says, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what's going on. I still don't know why I was even sent here. That's very important. This is a 40-year-old. He's 39. He's about to be 40. This is a 40-year-old man, 39-year-old man that's telling you that he's confused and he doesn't know what's going on and he doesn't know why they sent him here in the first place. According to O'Connor's legal team, there is no evidence that he had ever been effectively served the documents or he was even ever made aware of his situation that he was being considered for deportation. At least twice during the 5 years before O'Connor's removal, the deportation process was held up by the Jamaica High Commission's refusal to issue an emergency travel document for O'Connor, who did not have a valid passport. They judged he did not have the mental capacity to understand his situation. On one occasion, he was described as behaving like a 10-year-old child in a grown man's body. It is unclear under what circumstances and documents were provided for O'Connor in 2022, and that the Jamaican High Commission could not be reached for comments concerning O'Connor's case. Yo, you see, even the Jamaican government, man, is sad as hell. They look like they just sign off on anything and just take anybody. And the truth is, they have nothing to give to these people when they come back. Not like they owe them anything, but they have no way of them acclimating back into society, right? So if you come back to Jamaica from the airplane, you step off the airplane at Norman Manley International Airport. You a big grown man, 6 foot something, 39 years old, and you are fully blown paranoid schizophrenic with no medication to help you. How are you going to be a benefit to Jamaica as a society on a whole? My mind might start telling me to kill people out here, right? And then I start murdering innocent Jamaican citizens because I'm frustrated, because I'm hungry, because I'm scared, because of everything of the above. These people don't think. And they just let these people go on the island just like that. Unlike the other men at Open Arms, O'Connor has a fighting chance of returning to the UK. It's good to hear that, and I hope that us talking about it will actually have them take a look at it and send this man back to the UK, because this man does not belong in Jamaica. This isn't somebody who committed some big criminal acts where we can say, I'm looking for grounds to say, well, they were justified. They got to kick him out of there. They got to keep their country safe. But there is none. There is absolutely none. Here is another error. The last story we did was on a brother who got deported to Jamaica, even though he was born in the UK, birthright citizen. And he is back in the UK now. But when they deported him to Jamaica, he stayed in Jamaica for a couple of years because he had already been in prison. Now, he committed murder, right? And he said, he did his time. He accepted what he did was wrong. He did his time. But after being in prison for how many decades, when they asked him, you either going to Jamaica or what, he was like, yo, I'm tired of being in lockup. Mate, send me to Jamaica. But then when he got to Jamaica, he realized that life was much, much harder in Jamaica than he thought it was going to be, right? But back to O'Connor. O'Connor is still stuck in the shelter. Yes, he is getting some help, but he is not getting the kind of help he needs. And more importantly, this brother is off his medication because the health system in Jamaica does not cover it. He says, my only hope is finding a British wife. This is another person. Unlike other men at the Open Arms, O'Connor has a fighting chance of getting back to the UK. Another one who's 28 years old, he says, my only hope is finding a British wife, jokes the 20-year-old Jacob. 28-year-old Jacob. Jacob says that he was deported from Lancashire after immigrating to the UK as a child and found his way to Open Arms after a suicide attempt when he was deported back to Jamaica. He tried to kill himself. My biggest regret is not seeing my siblings grow up, he says. Jacob does not see a future for himself on the island of Jamaica either. He says that most of my residents, they go on to find jobs. The woman who runs the shelter, Miss Yvonne, she says that most of her residents, they go on to find jobs and build successful lives. This is what Miss Yvonne Grant says. Many get involved with churches or other support teams in Jamaica. It's not hard to find a new family. Of course, because Jamaica full up of nice people. And as much as things might be bad, as far as the crime stuff goes, you can still edge your way out in Jamaica to the point where you can bump heads with some good people. You find a girl, she like you off, you like her off, you decide, say, yo, babes, we're gonna make life together, And then you start go church, and then pastor introduce you to Sister Rosie, and Sister Rosie is pretty nice and rosy. And she have a little thing a go on for her, and she boosts up your morale and your spirit. And, Mas Ken say, come work down at my shop, down at my place. The next thing you have gainful employment, and you have a woman now. And next thing, you can build. Life is not over after a deportation. But that is for somebody who has a stable mind. O'Connor does not think that he'll be able to build a new life in Jamaica. I really hope I get to leave this behind me, he says. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort to build a new life. It takes at least some level, some mental capacity, some level of sane thinking, and being in the right mind frame to be able to build this new life that people vision, right? This brother has paranoid schizophrenia. He does not need to be in Jamaica. And like I said before, the worst part is he is off his medication. Listen, leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this one. And I'll catch you on the next video. And remember, for the rest of Uno, when we check it out, Lord, Nowhere no better than yard. That means that no matter how long we are foreign, my friend, we'll always make sure that we keep connected to our place, right? Because you never know when they will say that it's time to go. And that could be Canada, it could be over King Charles Place, or it could be right here so in a Uncle Sam land. These foreign places are not yours. And anything can reach you like it has reached others. I'm out. Peace.